The small bell above the door jingled softly as Emma pushed it open, letting the faint scent of wax and essential oils wrap around her. She paused for a moment, letting her eyes adjust to the warm glow of hundreds of flickering candles. The shop was a haven of golden light, amber shadows dancing across the shelves lined with delicate jars and ornate candle holders. Each scent was a promise: vanilla, sandalwood, lavender, and something darker she couldn't name but felt drawn toward. Emma had passed the candle shop countless times before, but today something had pulled her in. Maybe it was the drizzle outside that made the warm glow inviting, or maybe it was curiosity, the kind that hovered just at the edge of her thoughts like a flame waiting to be lit. She stepped further in, her fingers brushing against a smooth jar of lavender-scented wax. "Welcome," said a voice, deep and warm, carrying the subtle undertone of a smile. Emma turned to see a man standing behind the counter. His dark hair fell in soft waves, and his eyes caught hers immediately: green, intense, almost like sunlight caught in a forest. "I haven't seen you here before. Are you looking for anything in particular?" Emma hesitated, feeling a sudden heat rush to her cheeks. "Just browsing," she said softly, though every instinct in her body whispered that she was exactly where she was meant to be. He stepped closer, moving with a quiet confidence, his presence filling the small space around her. "We have a few new scents that just arrived," he said, gesturing to a corner where candles in deep reds and golds flickered. "They're unique. A little mysterious, a little tempting." Emma laughed nervously. "Tempting?" "Yes," he said, eyes glinting. "Some scents linger longer than others. Some stay with you, even after you leave." She picked up a candle, inhaling its spicy aroma, and felt her pulse quicken. It was more than the scent, it was the attention, the way he watched her, like he could see beyond the ordinary. She imagined the flame of the candle reflecting in his eyes, their flicker matching the stirrings in her own heart. He came closer, standing beside her, and his hand brushed hers as he pointed to another candle on the shelf. Emma's breath caught, not just because of the contact, but because of the electricity that seemed to hum between them. He noticed. "Careful," he said softly, "these candles have a way of drawing people in more ways than one." Emma smiled, a little shyly, but intrigued. "I've never felt drawn to a candle before," she admitted. "But something about this place, about you, it's different." He chuckled, a low, melodic sound that seemed to wrap around her like a warm blanket. "Then maybe it's the right time to be different." His gaze lingered on hers, and Emma felt a thrill she couldn't explain. It wasn't just attraction, it was curiosity, fascination, a sudden awareness of possibility. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside, the air felt charged, alive with anticipation. Every flicker of the candle light seemed to mirror the spark between them, a slow, teasing dance of shadow and flame. Emma realized, with a sudden thrill, that this was no ordinary visit to a candle shop. Something had begun, something subtle yet undeniable, and she was drawn into it with every breath she took. "Would you like to try something special?" he asked, picking up a candle that smelled of amber and honey. He held it out to her, and the warmth from his hand brushed against hers again. Emma's fingers brushed the glass, and a shiver ran down her spine. "It's our most tempting scent," he said, eyes never leaving hers. Emma nodded, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. "Yes. I'd like that." As he lit the candle, the flame danced and threw their shadows together on the wall, and Emma felt something in her chest twist with anticipation. It was a small spark, almost invisible, but it promised a fire yet to come. The candle flickered, the room shimmered with soft light, and Emma realized she had stepped into more than just a shop, she had stepped into temptation itself. The scent of amber and honey filled the small shop, curling around Emma like a warm embrace. She watched the flame dance, mesmerized by the way it threw flickering shadows across the shelves. Her pulse still thrummed from the brief touch of his hand, and she realized how deeply she wanted to stay in this moment, suspended between curiosity and desire. "I'm glad you chose that one," he said, voice low and smooth, almost a whisper meant only for her. "It's special. Not everyone can handle its depth." Emma tilted her head, intrigued. "Handle it? What do you mean?" He smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "Some scents reveal more than the surface. They awaken feelings you didn't know were waiting." He moved closer, just enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. Emma's breath hitched slightly. His nearness was intoxicating, like standing too close to a candle flame you knew it could burn, but you couldn't look away. She picked up another candle, this one a deep crimson, and inhaled the spicy, earthy aroma. "This one feels bold," she said softly, almost to herself. "Bold," he echoed, brushing a fingertip over the edge of the candle jar. His hand lingered just a fraction longer than necessary, and Emma felt a shiver travel through her. Yes. Bold people are drawn to bold things. Sometimes they surprise even themselves. Emma laughed quietly, a nervous yet delighted sound. "I suppose I could surprise myself." He leaned slightly closer, his voice dropping into a softer, more intimate tone. "I have a feeling you already have." The words sent a thrill through her chest, and she could feel the air between them charge with an almost tangible electricity. Every movement of his, every glance, seemed calculated to draw her in without ever forcing her. "Would you like a tour?" he asked, gesturing toward a narrow aisle lined with candles she hadn't noticed before. "Some of the rarer scents are kept here. Only those who truly appreciate them get to experience them fully." Emma nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and curiosity. She followed him down the aisle, the candles on either side casting long shadows that danced across the floor. He picked up a small jar, dark and mysterious, and handed it to her. "This one," he said, "is called Midnight Whisper. It's unforgettable." Emma held the candle in her hands, inhaling the scent. It was deep, rich, almost magnetic, like it had a pulse of its own. She looked up at him, and he was watching her intently, a slow smile playing on his lips. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Not as beautiful as your reaction," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. For a moment, the rest of the shop seemed to fade, leaving only the two of them and the soft glow of the candles. Emma felt a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with the flame she held. They walked together to a small table in the corner where a few candles were arranged for testing. He lit another candle, it sent a mix of vanilla and spice, and set it between them. "Smell this," he said, guiding her hand gently toward the flame. The proximity of their hands, their bodies, was almost unbearable in its intensity. Emma inhaled deeply, and the aroma wrapped around her senses. "It's intoxicating," she admitted. "Just like some experiences," he replied, leaning slightly closer. She could feel the warmth of his chest and the subtle fragrance he carried clean, with a faint hint of musk. Her heart beat faster, and she realized how aware she had become of every detail about him, the curve of his jaw, the way his eyes softened when he smiled, the quiet confidence in the way he moved. The bell above the door jingled again, and Emma startled slightly. But he didn't move. Instead, he kept his gaze locked on hers, and she felt that nothing outside this small, candle-lit shop mattered. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, she felt completely present, caught entirely in the moment. Sometimes, he said softly, we find things we didn't even know we were looking for. Emma's fingers tightened around the candle, and she realized that he was speaking not just about the scent, but about her, about the strange pull she felt toward him. She smiled, shy but daring. And sometimes, she whispered back, we allow ourselves to be tempted. The flame flickered, shadows dancing along the walls, and Emma felt the first real spark of something thrilling and new. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing for certain, she wanted to find out. Emma's fingers lingered over the candle jar, feeling the warmth of the glass and the subtle heat of his hand brushing against hers once again. She tried to focus on the scents, the rich amber, the soft vanilla, but her attention kept drifting to him. There was something magnetic about the way he moved, the easy confidence in his gestures, the way his eyes seemed to look directly into her thoughts without her saying a word. I can see you enjoy this part, he said softly, leaning just slightly closer. The warmth of his presence wrapped around her, almost like the glow of the candles themselves. Watching people connect with scents, it's like watching a story unfold. Emma smiled, trying to hide the quickening of her pulse. I didn't know candles could feel like a story, she admitted. But maybe it's the shop, or maybe it's you. His lips curved into a slow smile, and he tilted his head as if considering her words. Maybe it's both. Some places, some people, they draw out feelings you didn't realize were there. They moved slowly down another aisle, the flickering light creating soft shadows across the walls. He picked up a tall, slender candle, its wax the color of dark wine, and handed it to her. This one is subtle, he said. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And sometimes, whispers are far more powerful than words. Emma inhaled the scent, a mix of spice and warmth that seemed to curl around her senses. It's amazing, she murmured. The subtle fragrance seemed to stir something in her, a mixture of curiosity and anticipation, and she felt herself leaning just slightly toward him. I thought you might like it, he said, watching her carefully. There's something about subtlety that draws people in, makes them want to discover more. Emma caught herself smiling, the corners of her mouth curving up almost against her will. She felt an unspoken thrill in the moment, a quiet intensity that didn't need words. Her eyes met his, and she noticed the tiny sparks of light dancing in them, reflections of the flames surrounding them. It made her chest tighten in a way she hadn't expected. Would you like to try something a little different? He asked, reaching for a candle with a deep, smoky scent. He held it out to her, and their fingers brushed as she took it. The contact was electric, sending a shiver up her arm and a rush of warmth through her chest. Emma inhaled the smoky aroma, and it felt almost alive in her senses. It's bold, she whispered, her voice catching slightly. Bold people, he said softly, leaning closer so that his shoulder nearly brushed hers, often discover things they never imagined. Sometimes, they discover themselves. Her heartbeat quickened, and for a moment, she forgot to breathe. She could feel the subtle energy between them, a pull that was more than curiosity or attraction. It was a magnetic tension, a kind of dance that drew them closer without a single word. She realized that every glance, every movement, was charged with an unspoken invitation. He stepped back slightly, giving her space, but the intensity in his eyes remained. You have a way of noticing things, he said, almost as if reading her thoughts. Most people rush in, but you take your time. You let the moment sink in. Emma felt a warmth spread across her cheeks. Maybe I don't want to rush, she admitted softly. Some moments deserve to be savored. He nodded slowly, a knowing smile playing on his lips. Exactly. Some moments linger longer than we expect. They stopped at a display of candles in delicate glass holders, the light reflecting in their surfaces and scattering tiny sparks of gold across the walls. He held up one of the candles, it sent a mix of rose and spice, and handed it to her. Their hands met again, and Emma felt the thrill of proximity, the subtle brush of skin against skin, and the awareness of shared warmth. Sometimes, he said quietly, we find what we didn't know we were looking for, right where we least expect it. Emma inhaled deeply, the scent of the candle mingling with the warmth of the shop and the warmth she felt from him. She realized that she had been drawn here not just by curiosity, but by something far more compelling, a connection that felt immediate, natural, and undeniably enticing. As the flame flickered between them, shadows dancing along the walls, Emma felt a spark ignite inside her, a spark of possibility, of desire, of temptation she had never anticipated. She didn't know what would come next, but she knew one thing: this moment, this encounter, was just the beginning. The warm glow of the candles seemed to wrap the shop in a soft cocoon, isolating Emma and him from the outside world. Every flicker of light made the shadows dance across their faces, highlighting moments of subtle expression: his faint smile, the way his eyes followed her every movement, the quiet curiosity in the tilt of his head. Emma felt an unusual sense of calm, yet beneath it was a slow, rising pulse of excitement she couldn't ignore. You seem thoughtful, he said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. His voice had a gentle timbre, a rhythm that felt like it could pull her in deeper if she let it. Is there something particular you're drawn to? Emma glanced at the candles surrounding them, so many scents, so many possibilities, but she realized it wasn't the candles alone. It was him. The way he moved, spoke, even the warmth of his presence seemed magnetic. I'm not sure, she admitted. Maybe it's all of it. The shop, the scents, and, she hesitated, a soft flush rising in her cheeks. You. He leaned in just slightly, a silent acknowledgement of her words, without breaking the fragile tension. I'm glad to hear that, he said, his voice lower now, soft, like a secret meant only for her. I think some things, some encounters, are meant to happen, whether we understand them or not. Emma felt a shiver run through her at the intimacy in his tone. She picked up a candle, a small jar of soft vanilla mixed with a hint of musk, inhaling its gentle fragrance. It was warm and comforting, but beneath it, there was an edge, a subtle spark that reminded her of the moment's energy. She held the candle tightly, almost as if anchoring herself in the moment, and looked up at him. Would you like to see something special? He asked, his eyes sparkling with a quiet mischief. He moved toward a small shelf tucked in the corner, where a few unique candles were arranged under soft light. Emma followed, her curiosity piqued, every step heightening the awareness of his nearness. He picked up a slender candle, dark and mysterious, and held it out to her. This one, he said, is called Night Bloom. It's subtle, yet unforgettable. You might find yourself captivated by it. Emma inhaled deeply, the scent rich and slightly intoxicating. Her pulse quickened, not just from the fragrance, but from the way he watched her. It was as if he could sense every small reaction, every unspoken thought. It's beautiful, she whispered. Not as beautiful as your reaction, he said softly, the corners of his lips turning up in a quiet smile. The warmth in his gaze made her heart flutter in ways she hadn't anticipated. Every subtle movement, every glance, seemed to pull her further into an invisible web she didn't want to escape. He stepped just a little closer, and Emma realized how aware she was of his presence, his warmth, his subtle fragrance, the quiet intensity in his eyes. She could feel the subtle electricity in the space between them, the unspoken invitation in the slight brush of his hand as he set the candle down on the table beside her. "Some people come here looking for candles," he murmured, leaning slightly toward her, "and find something else entirely." Emma's breath hitched slightly, the tension between them almost tangible. I think I understand," she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her fingers brushed against the edge of the table, yet she was acutely aware of how close he was, of the subtle warmth radiating from him. The shop seemed to hold its breath, the flickering flames casting shadows that danced across the shelves, the walls, and across their faces. The moment was delicate, fragile, yet charged with an undeniable energy. Every glance, every word, every subtle movement seemed designed to pull them closer, to make the air between them heavier with anticipation. He smiled faintly, his eyes locked on hers. "I think some moments," he said quietly, "are meant to linger, longer than we expect." Emma nodded slowly, the tension in her chest a mixture of excitement and desire. She didn't know what would come next, but she felt certain of one thing: whatever this was, it was only beginning. And she wanted every moment of it, every flicker of flame, every whisper of scent, every heartbeat that brought them closer together. The candle light flickered softly, shadows entwining around them, and Emma realized she was caught in the perfect, irresistible pull of temptation. Emma lingered near the table, her fingers tracing the smooth surface of the candle jars as if each one could tell a story. The warmth of the shop seemed to wrap around her like a soft blanket, but it wasn't just the light or the scents that held her, it was him. Every subtle movement, every glance, every quiet smile drew her closer, leaving her pulse racing in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. He picked up a candle with a deep, amber hue and held it out to her. "This one," he said softly, "has layers. At first, it seems gentle, comforting, but if you pay attention, it reveals something deeper, unexpected." Emma inhaled the scent, a rich mixture of amber, sandalwood, and a whisper of spice. She felt her chest tighten in a strange, delightful way. "It's complicated," she whispered. "Just like people," he replied, his voice low and calm, yet charged with a subtle energy that made her shiver. He moved closer, the faint brush of his hand against hers as he set the candle down sending a thrill through her. "And sometimes, the unexpected is exactly what we need." Emma looked up at him, their eyes meeting. There was an intensity there, something that went beyond mere attraction. It was curiosity, fascination, and a subtle tension that seemed to hum between them. She realized how aware she had become of every small detail: the line of his jaw, the warmth in his eyes, the quiet confidence in the way he stood. "Would you like to try something new?" he asked softly, stepping closer so that she could feel the heat of his presence without realizing how close he was. "I have a scent that's unique. It might surprise you." Emma nodded, her heart beating faster. "I'd like that," she admitted, her voice soft, almost trembling with anticipation. He picked up a slender candle, almost black in color, and handed it to her. "This is called Velvet Night," he said, his fingers brushing hers as she took it. The contact was electric, brief but enough to make her pulse race. Emma inhaled deeply, the scent rich, dark, and intoxicating. She could feel a subtle warmth spreading through her chest, a pull she couldn't resist. "Beautiful," she whispered, looking up at him. Her gaze held a mixture of shyness and daring, and she noticed the faintest hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Not as beautiful as your reaction," he said softly, stepping just a little closer. The space between them seemed charged, filled with unspoken possibilities. Emma felt a thrill of anticipation, a desire to explore the connection that had grown so naturally between them. He guided her hand toward the candle flame, and for a moment, their fingers brushed again. The subtle contact sent a shiver down her arm, and she realized that every small touch, every glance, every quiet word between them carried weight far beyond what she had expected. "The shop, the candles," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers, "sometimes they're just an excuse. The real magic is in the moments we create while we're here." Emma swallowed, her pulse quickening. "Then maybe the magic is just beginning," she said softly, her words carrying a hint of hope and daring. He smiled faintly, the expression slow and deliberate, as if savoring her words. "I think you might be right," he said. He took a step back, giving her space, yet the tension in the air remained, thick and electric, almost tangible. The soft flicker of the candle light reflected in their eyes, shadows dancing along the walls, highlighting the quiet intimacy of the moment. Emma felt herself drawn in, a mixture of curiosity, excitement, and a growing desire to explore what this connection could mean. Every flicker, every scent, every subtle movement seemed designed to hold her attention, to pull her further into the moment. She realized that she had been searching for something she couldn't name, something that went beyond ordinary attraction. And now, standing here in the candle-lit shop, she understood it was the anticipation, the tension, the unspoken pull that made her heart race and her thoughts whirl. He watched her closely, his eyes soft but intense, and Emma knew, without a word, that he felt the same. The candle light flickered between them, shadows mingling with their silhouettes, and for the first time, Emma felt the true weight of temptation not in a fleeting glance, but in the slow, inevitable pull of two people drawn together by something more than coincidence. The flame of the candle flickered softly, and Emma realized that this was no longer just a visit to a shop, it was the beginning of something deeper, something thrilling, something she could no longer resist. The soft glow of the candles made the entire shop feel like a world apart. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and glistening, but inside, the warmth wrapped around Emma like a gentle promise. Every flicker of flame seemed to mirror the pull she felt toward him, subtle yet undeniable. She could sense it in the air, a quiet tension that made her pulse quicken with each passing second. He moved closer, just enough for her to feel the warmth radiating from him. The scent of the candles mixed with the faint trace of his cologne, a clean, subtle musk that seemed to linger in the space between them, and Emma felt her chest tighten. There was something intoxicating about the way he watched her, a careful, measured intensity that made her heart skip a beat. "I can see you're drawn to the richer scents," he said softly, his voice low and deliberate. "There's something about complexity that speaks to certain people." Emma tilted her head, letting her fingers brush over a deep maroon candle. "I suppose I like things that make me think and feel," she admitted, her voice a little breathless. "Something with depth." He smiled, the corners of his lips curving slowly, knowingly. "Depth can be thrilling," he said quietly. "Sometimes more than we're ready for." His eyes locked with hers, and Emma felt a shiver run down her spine. The subtle charge in the air between them had grown stronger, almost tangible, like the quiet hum of energy that seemed to pulse with each flicker of the candle light. He picked up a candle of soft cream with hints of jasmine and vanilla and held it toward her. "This one is gentle, yet it lingers in ways you don't expect," he said, his voice almost a whisper. Emma inhaled deeply, the scent wrapping around her senses, calming yet stirring something deeper inside her. "Beautiful," she murmured, her voice catching slightly as she looked up at him. "Not as beautiful as the way you notice it," he replied, stepping slightly closer. The space between them had shrunk just enough that she could feel the warmth from his body without him touching her. The tension was subtle but electric, like a spark waiting to ignite. Emma's fingers brushed his as he set the candle down, and a thrill shot through her. It was brief, almost accidental, but it sent a shiver through her chest. She looked up, and his eyes were on hers, soft yet intense, holding a quiet promise that left her breathless. "There's something about moments like this," he said softly, "when time seems to pause, when everything else fades, and it's just us." Emma swallowed, feeling a mixture of anticipation and desire. "I know what you mean," she whispered. The warmth in her chest had grown, a magnetic pull she could no longer ignore. Every subtle movement, every glance, every word he spoke seemed designed to draw her closer, to make the moment linger. He stepped even closer, their shoulders nearly touching, the faint heat from his presence wrapping around her. "Some things are too powerful to ignore," he said quietly, his lips curling into a gentle smile. "Sometimes, we just have to let ourselves feel them." Emma felt her heart racing, her breath catching. She realized she had been holding back, afraid of what might happen, but the quiet intensity in his gaze made her want to surrender to the moment, to see where this connection could lead. The candle light flickered across the room, shadows dancing along the walls, wrapping around them like a delicate veil. She could feel the slow, irresistible pull drawing them together, a tension that was no longer subtle but tangible, almost alive. Emma's hand brushed his again, and this time neither of them pulled away. She could feel the electricity flowing between them, a slow, steady current that made the world outside fade into nothingness. For the first time, she felt completely present, completely aware of the intensity building between them, and completely willing to see where it would go. "Emma," he said softly, almost a whisper, "sometimes, the right moment finds you when you least expect it." Her breath caught, and her lips parted slightly. "I think I've found it," she whispered back, the candlelight reflecting in her eyes, shadows mingling with the spark of something thrilling she couldn't resist. The warmth, the tension, the anticipation, it all converged into a single, undeniable feeling. The temptation she had felt since entering the shop had grown into something tangible, and she knew, in that suspended, golden-lit moment, that she could no longer hold back. The shop had grown quiet, the faint hum of the city outside replaced by the soft crackle of candle flames. The golden light cast a warm glow across Emma's face, highlighting the subtle flush in her cheeks. She felt acutely aware of him, the way he moved, the calm strength in his presence, the quiet intensity of his gaze that seemed to hold her attention completely. He stepped closer, and the warmth radiating from him was undeniable. For a moment, time seemed to suspend itself, leaving only the two of them amidst the flickering candles and the intoxicating scents. Emma felt her heartbeat quicken, a thrill running through her that was both exhilarating and comforting. "Emma," he said softly, his voice low and deliberate, "I think," he paused, letting the words linger between them. "Some moments are meant to be embraced fully." Her breath caught, and she realized she had been holding her own hesitation close, afraid to fully give in to the magnetic pull she felt. But now, standing so near him, the tension and warmth between them left no room for doubt. I think you're right, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly with anticipation. He smiled faintly, a mixture of gentleness and mischief, and reached out, lightly brushing a strand of hair from her face. The touch was soft, almost reverent, but it sent a shiver down her spine. Then let's not waste another moment, he murmured, his eyes locked on hers, full of quiet intensity. Emma felt a thrill ripple through her chest. She had never imagined a simple visit to a candle shop could feel like this, so intimate, so charged with unspoken possibilities. Every flicker of light seemed to mirror the flutter in her heart, every shadow echoing the pull between them. She stepped just slightly closer, and he mirrored her movement, closing the distance without forcing it, letting the tension build naturally. He lifted a candle, a delicate jar of deep amber, and held it between them. The flame flickered, casting soft shadows across their faces, creating a private, golden world. Some things, he said quietly, don't need words. They only need to be felt. Emma nodded, her fingers brushing the glass of the candle and then his hand. The touch was fleeting, yet it felt electric, charged with anticipation and a warmth she couldn't ignore. She realized that the attraction between them was no longer subtle, it was a force she wanted to embrace. Then let me feel it, she whispered, her voice soft but filled with certainty. The words seemed to hang in the air, carrying with them a promise, a surrender to the undeniable pull between them. He smiled, a slow, deliberate smile, and leaned closer. The scent of the candles mixed with the faint trace of his cologne, enveloping her senses, and Emma felt herself drawn in completely. Their faces were close now, close enough for her to see the subtle glimmer in his eyes, to feel the warmth of his breath, to sense the quiet intensity that had been building since the moment she entered the shop. Sometimes, he murmured, we find exactly what we didn't know we were searching for. Emma's lips curved into a soft smile, and she felt a rush of emotion, excitement, anticipation, and something deeper, a connection that went beyond attraction. I think I've found it, she whispered back. For a moment, they simply stood there, eyes locked, the flickering candlelight wrapping them in a golden cocoon. The world outside ceased to exist, the only reality was the warmth, the scent, and the undeniable energy that drew them together. He reached out again, gently taking her hand in his. The contact was simple but filled with meaning, a quiet acknowledgement of the spark that had grown between them. Emma felt her chest tighten in delight, the tension and anticipation transforming into a steady, thrilling warmth. Some moments, he said softly, are meant to change everything. Emma nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. The candlelight reflected in their eyes, shadows mingling with the golden glow, and she realized that this was more than temptation, it was connection, curiosity, and the beginning of something unforgettable. As the flames danced, the soft glow filling the small shop, Emma and he stood together, hands entwined, hearts racing, caught in the delicate, thrilling magic of the moment. The candles flickered, the shadows shifted, and the warmth between them remained a quiet, undeniable promise of what could be. Outside, the world continued, but inside the candle shop, Emma had found something she would never forget, the intoxicating, irresistible pull of temptation and the thrilling, golden beginning of a connection that was entirely, perfectly theirs.